But then MJF's music hit, and I was like, okay, let's stick with this thing for a minute. And then we got to the point where, and Brian, I think you mentioned this the other day, it's almost like you get into something on this show where you think, this is a good show. And then suddenly everything goes to shit. And MJF and Starks face to face was great. And Starks held his own with him. MJF had blistered Danielson for not showing up tonight, quote unquote. He wasn't there. The whole thing with Regal, blah, blah, blah. But when MJF is cutting the promo, here's one thing I was thinking, though. MJF is cutting the promo and the fans are chanting, shut the fuck up. And then MJF tells Ricky Starks, you're the drizzling shits, which, I guess isn't as bad as shut the fuck up. But, there's a new head of programming. Did you see this?
I did. It's a separate question we should probably talk about.
Yes, but I'm just saying there's a new head of programming. And the farther they get removed from the people who gave them this deal, as more and more people turn over, I just can't imagine that somebody eventually in TBS and TNT is going to want to hear fuck 18 times on their basic cable in prime time. Anyway, so MJF said that Starks was a dollar store Dwayne, started calling him the Pebble, and said he was going to run him back to Billy Corgan's NWA so he could wrestle on YouTube where he belongs. And I just noted Starks needs a good comeback here. And fuck, he got it. As soon as he got the microphone and said, well, Maxi Pad. And the fans started chanting Maxi Pad. And Starks tore up fucking MJF's tan and his clothes and his style, and the people were with it. And he said, cheap suit, cheap shoes, cheap heat, you fifth-rate Roddy Piper wannabe. And he stood up for himself. And you could tell, again, this wasn't something that had been written. After I saw this, I saw a couple of pieces of SmackDown, and it was so phony and so stagey and so contrived and written next to these two guys. So, after that big promo, MJF kicked Starks in the balls, which was perfect. But he turned, take off his belt and his watch and shit, and he put the ring on, and he swung with the ring, and Starks ducked it and hit him with a big spear, and the place came unglued. So that 10 minutes or whatever it was the best piece of wrestling television all week on this program, which is already you're at a disadvantage being on this program. But I mean, Starks, he can talk. He looks good. He seems serious. We've seen him, work fantastic. And then there was the match with Hobbs, and we were like, what the fuck? But he had a broken neck earlier, didn't he? A year ago or however long. They dropped him on his head. I hope that he's physically okay. I have a feeling this will be a great fucking match between the two of them if everybody is at 100%.
It shouldn't be just a match. It should be a feud. It should be weeks of these guys doing promos. Ricky Starks has been used so poorly for so long, even though he's had incredible talent, and the fans got behind him on their own despite the bad booking. He needed something to not be thought of as that guy, and what he needed was a fiery promo that felt real, and we got it. And it was him and MJF going back and forth, and we'll see how this plays out. I certainly hope it's more than one match. With AEW, you never know, and that's the one thing you worry about, because you're like, oh, wow, this has the makings of something that long-term, due to their age and, it could be a long-term thing that produces great TV because of their talent. You hope it's just not just like one match and then, all right, now you're going to work with Jericho or whatever the fuck it'll be. But
the place they're pointing to, obviously, is MJF and Danielson, now that MJF has turned on the man that Bryan Danielson loves, according to the promo he did last week or whenever. And for a marquee pay-per-view world title match, MJF and Danielson right now has more appeal. But at the same time, when's the next time they've got a pay-per-view? They don't have one for a while, right? Hopefully.
I don't think so. They usually have one in what, February or something?
Except there's a Ring of Honor thing that we'll talk about in a minute.
AEW in your house.
Yeah, they're going to come to everybody's house individually and do it. But one would think that maybe it would help Danielson with the way that he's been presented. Could now MJF do something heinous to Danielson that gets him off TV for 6 weeks and out of and away from the Blackpool Combat Club and on a singular mission of his own to get even for his mentor and friend William Regal when he comes back from injury, that gives Starks a little time and a little breathing room to carry the torch. Well, I'll get even for goddamn Bryan Danielson and for all the other people that you've jacked around, you prick, and they could have some room to run with that. And then if Danielson came back away from Moxley and Useless and the rest of that, the whole misguided thing, maybe he could recapture a little bit of his oomph as a single guy with a spotlight on him that he had before until they put him in this group and neutered him.
Hey, watching this segment, and again, watching it from the inception of when MJF came out, seeing last week, to the people who said MJF can't be booed, he can't be a heel, the fans love him too much, they're booing the shit out of him.
Yes, they are. Because he showed his true colors. They wanted to like the wise ass when he was saying wise ass things about people that they didn't like. But then, when he started saying it about their mothers, the wise ass wasn't as entertaining.
Did you see his tweet earlier today?
I did not.
I guess he's going to Vegas for, I think it's UFC. Put out a tweet, made a list before my flight to Vegas. People started sending this to the Drive-Thru email. People that will never beat me for the Triple B. The Pebble, the American Dipshit Dragon, Warho, Edward, Sensitive Cowboy, Jungle Jabroni, Darbs the School Shooter,
Ooh,
Adam, my brain don't work so I can't cope Cole, and Mr. Clean, in quotes, Castagnoli.
That's what I like about the man. He loves to make friends.